Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, we journey into a realm older than memory, a world where mountains touch the heavens and seas whispered secrets to the stars. In this vast tapestry, storms were more than tempests. They were voices, songs, and sometimes promises. From the roaring skies came a prophecy. A child would be born of thunder and rain. This child would carry the heartbeat of the storm within him. His name would one day echo across all lands. That name was Zeus. But before temples and marble statues, Zeus was only a child of mystery. He was wrapped not in silk, but in clouds, guarded not by soldiers, but by the song of the wind. His journey began in secrecy, in a cave hidden from the world. There, the first lullaby he ever heard was thunder itself. This is the story of the Stormborn Zeus, a tale not of conquest, but of growth, wonder, and balance. So sit with me as the rain begins to fall, and together, let us listen to the storm. Have you ever truly listened to the sky? Not just rain on rooftops or distant thunder, but the hidden voice inside those sounds. Long ago, people believed the sky could speak. It whispered to shepherds, sang to sailors, and warned through storms. One season, the skies grew restless. Clouds gathered thick, lightning shimmered without striking. Thunder rolled like a story untold. In the hush between storm and silence, a prophecy drifted on the wind. A child would be born beneath thunder and rain, not of ordinary fate, but one who would carry the heartbeat of the skies within him. Villagers beneath the mountains felt it. Birds perched longer. Animals turned restless, yet calm, listening to the heavens. Every whisper of wind carried the same truth. Asterisk, he is coming. Asterisk. This prophecy was not carved in stone. It was written in silence, in softened thunder and gentle rain on thirsty fields. The storm was not wild. It hummed like a song. Clouds circled above as if watching. Lightning glowed like a lantern. The mountains hid themselves in mist. The cave waited, quiet, warm, smelling of pine, moss, and rain. Inside, the cradle of destiny was ready. The storm told his story in fragments, thunder syllables, wind pauses, sky as storyteller. It spoke of balance, not conquest. A guardian, not a destroyer. A child who could bend storms with laughter and calm them with silence. Nature carried this secret. The mountains remembered. The sea sang it in waves. The trees whispered it through their leaves. When rain finally fell, it was not violent. It tapped on stone, trickled on leaves, and pattered gently like a lullaby. The world was not afraid. It was waiting. Imagine standing there, listener air heavy, still, yet full of promise, a silence before something sacred is spoken. That was the silence when Zeus was about to arrive. The sky had whispered for days, and now, with the storm gathered, its voice grew clear. Asterisk, he is here. Asterisk, the storm had whispered for days, and when the hour arrived, the skies seemed to hold their breath. No lightning struck, no thunder roared too loud. The heavens trembled like a steady, waiting heartbeat. Far from the villages, a mountain hid a secret. At its base, where pine trees bent under rain, a cave lay hidden. It was not grand, but it was safe. Inside, the air was warm. Moss cushioned the ground. A fire crackled gently, smoke curling upward to greet the storm. Here, a mother prepared to bring her child into the world. A child destined not for earth alone, but for the skies. When the first cry filled the cave, the rain softened. The storm hushed, listening. In that moment, Zeus was born. He was not wrapped in silk. The clouds themselves seemed to settle around him, swaddling their own child. His small breaths sounded like breezes in leaves. When he opened his eyes, lightning shimmered faintly on the horizon. The world outside slept, unaware. Villagers dreamed. The sea lay calm. Children rested beneath the cover of the storm. But nature knew. Mountains felt the tremor. Rivers carried the echo of his cry. Even hidden stars flickered in acknowledgement. Gentle beings came to guard him. Forest nymphs stepped softly into the cave, carrying scents of streams and wildflowers. They spoke no words. They only watched, their eyes glowing with ancient wisdom. From the mountain came a faithful companion, a sacred goat, strong and calm, ready to nurture and protect. This was no army, no throne, no banners, no guards. Zeus's first guardians were creatures of peace, who understood the language of rain and forest hush. As he rested, the storm offered a lullaby. Thunder rolled softly, steady as his heartbeat. Rain tapped gently on stone. The wind curled into the cave, wrapping mother and child in its invisible embrace. Hidden from the world, the child of prophecy slept, not in a palace, but in a cave of moss, flame, and stormlight. Hints of destiny appeared even then. When he stirred, firelight brightened. When he sighed, rain softened. When he laughed, the storm outside rippled with joy. Thunder clapped like gentle applause. The elements had been waiting for him, ready to answer his smallest sound with love. And Zeus already spoke their language not with words, but with air, fire, and light. In time, villagers would wonder why that storm felt different, why the rain nourished their fields so kindly, why thunder sounded less frightening, almost protective. They would not know the truth. A child had been born who carried the storm in his soul. The cave kept its secret. The mountain guarded its mystery. The prophecy had taken form. The child of thunder, hidden in storm and earth, had arrived, and though no one yet knew his name, the skies whispered it softly, with every gust of wind, every drop of rain. Zeus, when a child is born beneath a storm, the world itself seems to notice. For Zeus, the newborn wrapped in clouds and firelight, the first to see him were beings older and gentler than humankind. The cave was not silent. It breathed with whispers of rain, the crackle of fire, and the quiet shuffle of unseen visitors. They brought no crowns, no trumpets. They came softly, drawn to the child whose cry had stirred the skies. The first were forest nymphs. They slipped through dripping pines, entering like shadows of water and light. Their hair shimmered like rivers. Their eyes glowed green like moss at dawn. They gazed at the child with awe, not fear. They knew prophecy. They felt he was bound to more than earth. One nymph knelt, touching the air above his hands. "He carries the voice of the storm," she whispered. The others nodded. They too heard it in his breathing, in the thunder's soft hum outside. Then came the mountain spirits. Their presence was heavy, like stones shifting deep underground. They did not take full form, but their voices rumbled softly. "Grow strong, little one. The mountain will steady you." From the shadows came the sacred goat, Amalthea. She stepped carefully into the cave, rain on her coat, her gaze calm and wise. Without hesitation, she bent to the child, nursing him with a gentleness that surprised even the nymphs. From that moment, Amalthea was more than a guardian. She was his companion, his source of strength. Each drop of milk carried the power of earth, the resilience of mountains, the tenderness of care. The cave became a sanctuary. The nymphs wove songs, their voices mingling with the storm. The mountain spirits guarded the entrance like an unseen wall. Amalthea stood near his cradle of moss, watchful and warm. The guardians gave more than protection. They gave lessons. The nymphs taught joy and wonder. The mountains gave patience. Amalthea taught tenderness within strength. The storm itself joined them. Rain fell gently. Thunder rolled when he laughed. Lightning flickered when he dreamed. Time in the cave was timeless, marked by firelight and falling rain. In those days, a bond grew between Zeus and his guardians, not of duty, but of love. For though prophecy called him destined, he was still only a child lulled by nymphs, warmed by the mountain, fed by Amalthea's care. And sometimes, when he stirred, sparks lit his eyes, not dangerous, but dazzling, like hidden lightning waiting to awaken. Thus, Zeus grew in secrecy, wrapped not in silks, but in the embrace of nature. Though his destiny stretched across seas and skies, his first steps were guided by gentle voices and steady care. This was how the storm-born child was kept safe, not by weapons or walls, but by guardians who knew that greatness begins not in power, but in love. Stories have a way of traveling faster than wind. Even in the hidden silence of the cave, word of a stormborn child began to drift like smoke through valleys and over seas. No messenger carried the tale, yet somehow it moved. Perhaps the trees whispered it to the rivers. Perhaps the mountains sang it in their deep tones. Or perhaps destiny itself ensured that no secret of such weight could stay buried. Those who heard the whispers did not always understand them. Some dismissed the story as nothing more than myth, a bedtime tale told to restless children. But others listened closely, and their hearts trembled. For among the people of the world, there lived those who remembered the old prophecies, ancient lines carved not on stone or parchment, but into memory and blood. Prophecies that spoke of a child born in thunder, a child who would grow to restore balance between heaven and earth. The wise remembered, the fearful worried, and the powerful grew restless. Yet far from the doubts of men, in the safety of his cave, Zeus remained untouched by such fears. He was still a child, laughing at raindrops, reaching toward lightning with tiny hands, listening to the songs of nymphs who adored him. But the guardians could not ignore the signs. The forest nymphs whispered among themselves, their eyes glimmering with both wonder and concern. "He is meant for more than this," one said. "The storm speaks through him already." The mountain spirits rumbled in quiet tones, hidden deep within rock. "He carries weight beyond his years. We must be careful. We must prepare." And Amalthea, the sacred goat, stood silently through these discussions. She did not speak with words, but her steady presence was a kind of answer. To her, Zeus was not prophecy. He was not storm or fate. He was simply a child, hers to protect, hers to nurture. Still, destiny pressed in. One night, when the rain was heavier than usual and lightning painted the cave walls silver, a traveler found their way to the hidden entrance. It was no ordinary traveler. This was an oracle, guided not by maps or stars, but by visions. Her steps were weary, her eyes bright with fire that belonged more to dream than to waking life. She carried no staff, no crown, only the weight of what she knew. The guardians did not turn her away. They sensed she was meant to come. She knelt by the child, her face lit by the glow of stormlight. For a long time she said nothing. She simply looked into the infant's eyes, searching, listening, and then, softly, she spoke. "The sky has given him breath. The earth has given him strength. The sea waits for his call. He is bound to weave the world together, or see it break apart." Her words were not loud, yet they carried through the cave like thunder rolling across mountains. The nymphs bowed their heads. The mountain spirits trembled slightly. Amalthea pressed closer to the child, as if to shield him from the weight of prophecy. The oracle lifted her gaze to the storm outside. When the time comes, the heavens will test him. He must rise not with anger, but with wisdom. For storms can destroy, but they can also renew. With that, she rose to leave, vanishing into the night as quickly as she had arrived. She left no token, no proof of her visit, only her words, which echoed in the hearts of all who had heard them. From that night forward, the guardians looked at Zeus with new eyes. They still loved him as before, still sang to him and wrapped him in warmth. But they also watched the skies more closely. They listened more carefully to the voice of the storm. And Zeus, though too young to grasp their concern, seemed to feel the shift. His laughter carried a sharper echo. His gaze lingered longer on the lightning outside. The storm was no longer only around him, it was within him, growing day by day. The prophecy was no longer a distant whisper. It was alive, pulsing in every heartbeat of the stormborn child. And though the guardians wished to keep him safe forever, they knew the truth. Storms cannot be contained. They must one day break, and in breaking, reveal their power. For now, the cave remained his cradle. But the world was waiting, and the world had already begun to whisper his name. The cave sheltered Zeus from the world, but it could not keep the storms from seeking him. As he grew, the skies answered more boldly. No longer whispers, but living voices. It began small, A breeze stirred when he laughed. A spark flickered when he reached out his tiny hands. The guardians noticed. They spoke of it quietly, almost fearfully. One morning, as dawn gilded the mountains, a gust swept into the cave. It blew out the fire, scattered leaves, and lifted the child's hair like a crown. The nymphs gasped. Zeus only giggled, clapping as if he had been waiting for it. Amalthea leaned close, steady and calm. This was not danger. This was becoming. Soon, rain began to answer him. When he cried, it poured. When he smiled, it softened into mist, glowing in the morning light. The mountain spirits rumbled. He learns without being taught. The storm knows him already. The nymphs sang to him, but thunder rolled and lightning crackled, weaving into their songs. The sky itself seemed eager to join their lullabies. Then came the night of the true test. A storm broke over the mountains with fury. Winds roared, trees bent low. Lightning split the night in endless fire. The guardians feared discovery. The world would notice such power. But the storm did not rage against the cave. Winds curled away. Rain softened at the entrance. Thunder lowered its voice. The storm bent in reverence to the sleeping child. Zeus stirred, his chest rising and falling with the rain's rhythm. For a moment, lightning danced inside the cave. It flickered like ribbons of silver and gold, circling him in light. The nymphs stood still. The mountain spirits rumbled low. Amalthea's eyes glowed. The child smiled in his sleep, dreaming of lightning as toys. When the storm passed, silence settled heavier than thunder. The guardians knew the bond was no accident. The storm was not his enemy. It was his mirror. It would teach him, guide him, shape him. Days passed. The guardians grew used to the strange dance. When he reached for clouds, they lowered. When he laughed, winds played with him. When he slept, stars kept watch brighter than before. The prophecy was no longer distant. It was unfolding with every storm, every bolt of lightning. But awe carried a shadow. How long could such wonders stay hidden? Storms are not meant to be contained. They draw eyes. They stir fears. They change worlds. And the child at their heart was growing. The cave was his cradle, not his cage. The skies called to him, and he would soon answer. For the storm was no longer outside him. It lived within, waiting to awaken. And when it did, nothing, not mountain, not sea, not even the heavens would remain the same. The cave was full of wonder, but the world beyond was not silent. Storms may dance with joy, but they also draw eyes, and eyes often fear what they cannot control. Far away, in halls of rulers and priests, whispers of a storm-born child reached uneasy ears. No name, no face, only signs. Lightning bending to a boy, rain softening at his cry. To some, it sounded like hope. To others, like danger. The wise said, "If true, this child is a gift, a chance for balance." The fearful replied, "No child should command the sky. Such power belongs to the heavens." The powerful clenched their fists. If storms obey a boy, what becomes of kings? So the story spread, shaping the world around him before he ever saw it. Back in the cave, the guardians sensed the shift. The nymphs whispered, "The story flies too far. Too many listen." The mountain spirits rumbled. Even the earth feels eyes turning toward us. Amalthea stood closer than ever, her watchful gaze unbroken. Zeus, still young, laughed and played, unaware of the storm he stirred beyond the mountains. Yet sometimes, a shadow crossed his joy, as if instinct told him his life was not his own. Then came the first danger. A hunter strayed too far, glimpsing strange lights near the mountain, lightning too low, thunder too soft. He ran back with wide eyes, carrying hurried words. Soon, seekers followed not hunters of beasts, but of truth or power. Their eyes searched the ridges, their whispers sharp as knives. The guardians knew the cave was no longer safe. Nymphs darted through trees, listening for footsteps. The mountain spirits pressed outward, trying to hold intruders away. Amalthea kept Zeus close, never leaving his side. One evening, clouds gathered. Zeus reached for the sky. A bolt of lightning leapt down, striking a stone near the cave. The seekers, hidden below, saw it. Their fears confirmed. They ran back, spreading their tale. No longer myth, not a dream. The Stormborn child was real. Silence weighed heavy in the cave that night. The guardians gathered close. "The world will come," whispered the nymphs. "Not with wonder, but with fear. The mountain hides only so long," the spirits rumbled. "Even stone wears thin." Amalthea watched the sleeping child, her breath slow, her gaze steady. She would not let the world take him. Not yet. The guardians resolved. Zeus must remain hidden even from himself until the time was right. They would guard his laughter, shield his power, silence the thunder if they could. But storms cannot be silenced forever. The world was already listening. Beyond mountains and seas, power stirred not in wonder, but in fear. The prophecy was no longer safe in whispers. It had become a threat in the mouths of kings. And though Zeus still played, chasing sparks across stone, destiny stepped closer. The storm was gathering not only in the sky, but in the hearts of men. And men, unlike storms, do not always bow. Mortals whispered in fear, but the heavens were not blind. The sky belonged to the gods, and they felt it shifting. Every storm carried a new rhythm, a new heart. On Olympus, thrones trembled with murmurs of change. The gods gathered, uneasy with what they sensed. Hera spoke first, her voice sharp and stern. Storms answer where no prayer is given. Something stirs beneath the sky's skin. Poseidon frowned, waves echoing his mood. "The sea tells me the sky has chosen a child." Athena's voice was calm, but thoughtful. Mortals whisper of a boy who calls rain with laughter, lightning with tears. Ares scoffed, iron in his tone. "A child?" Mortals exaggerate. Lightning strikes, and they weave it into legend. But the air carried an unspoken truth. A name not yet spoken lingered like a spark. Zeus. Hestia lowered her gaze, gentle as flame. "If he exists, he is not born of malice. Power can mean change, not danger." But the gods feared change, above all else. In the shadows, the Titans listened. Defeated but not silent, they still felt echoes of strength. The storm's pulse reminded them of old prophecies. Words of a son who would rise to challenge thrones. Whispers spread like smoke across the realms. Curiosity, caution, envy. Each god felt something different. If the sky's heart belonged to a child, what remained for them? Far below, Zeus slept in the cave. Storms gentled at his breath. Lightning played at his dreams. The guardians did not know their secret was broken. Eyes upon the boy were now divine. One night, Hermes sped through the clouds. Wings swift, but heart unsteady. He had seen the child from afar. Lightning bent down, not wild, but obedient. Thunder circled him in play, guarding his rest. Hermes carried the vision back to Olympus. "It is true," he cried. "A child commands the storm." The gods fell silent, their faces shifting. Hera's voice cut through the quiet. "Such a child must be found. If left, he will grow into a threat." Poseidon's gaze deepened like dark seas. "Or an ally. Power may bridge sky and sea, not defy it." Athena's words were calm, but heavy. Whether ally or threat, prophecy walks with him. "We cannot ignore this." Ares grinned, fire in his eyes. "Then let us test him. The strong survive. The weak fade." Hestia only sighed, steady as the hearth. Storms do not bow easily, even to gods. The council ended restless, hearts divided. The heavens grew heavy with waiting. In the cave, Zeus still slept. He did not know the sky's weight already pressed on him. Destiny stirred as gods whispered and storms obeyed. The world was shifting around him. He would not remain hidden forever. The heavens had seen him, and the heavens never forget. The cave had always been his cradle, a safe corner of the world. Storms played gently. Guardians sang softly. But storms grow, and children do too. One day, the storm inside him stirred more fiercely. It began quietly, as great changes often do. He sat at the cave's mouth, watching clouds gather. He reached out a hand, As if to touch them, the clouds answered not with whispers, but with a roar. Thunder rolled deep across the mountains. Lightning tore the sky wide open. The guardians rushed to him, awe in their voices. "Zeus," they whispered. The storm listens closer now. Amalthea stood steady, her eyes on the horizon. She did not tremble. This was not danger. It was the beginning. The nymphs sang, but the storm joined their melody. Each note hummed with thunder. Each breath sparked with light. The mountain spirits rumbled uneasily. "The power grows too quickly," they warned. "Soon the world will see." But Zeus did not shrink from it. He laughed, arms lifted to the sky. The storm circled him as though he were its center. For hours it raged. Yet no harm touched the cave. Trees bent but did not break. Rain poured but did not flood. Thunder softened at the child's feet. The guardians could not deny it. The prophecy was unfolding before their eyes. This was the first awakening. That night, silence fell heavy and strange. The nymphs stared wide-eyed. The spirits sank into the earth. Amalthea kept her calm, watching the child sleep. His dreams glowed with sparks of light. Lightning came to him not as play, but as a crown. Far beyond, mortals stirred at the storm's fury. Fishermen spoke of waves without wind. Farmers whispered of rain that fell too fast, then softened. Priests lifted uneasy faces to the sky. And on Olympus, the gods heard too. The storm had a voice, carrying a name in its echo. Zeus. The guardians knew he could not stay hidden. They had hoped to wait until he was grown. But the storm was impatient. It would not wait for years. Zeus had awakened, and the world had heard him. Amalthea lifted her gaze to the stars. "The time has come sooner than we wished," she said. "But he is not alone. We are with him." The nymphs gathered close, their songs low and strong. The mountain spirits rumbled in agreement. They would guard him still. But guarding was no longer enough. They must prepare him, not just to survive the storm, but to become it. The first awakening left awe and fear behind. The world would remember the day the storm bowed. Though Zeus slept like a child, destiny crowned him in thunder. The storm was no longer playmate. It was inheritance. And one day soon, it would be his throne. The mountain had seen storms before. It had felt rain, lightning, thunder, but never had it felt a storm bend to a child's will. After the first awakening, nothing was the same. The guardians moved with quiet urgency. They whispered in shadows, planning in hushed tones. They knew the world would come looking. They knew Zeus must be ready. Amalthea watched him with steady patience. He grew taller, his laughter louder, his curiosity brighter. But woven into his joy was a force-demanding shape. The nymphs began their lessons. They taught him the language of streams. He learned how water carried memory through the mountain veins. He learned every drop knew its way to the sea. The mountain spirits added their wisdom. They taught him patience, the strength of stone. "Strength is not always speed," they said. "Sometimes it is standing unmoved." The wind became his companion. It whispered across cliffs, urging him to leap. Zeus climbed higher, dared further, steadier each step. At first, it all seemed like play. He laughed with streams and danced with winds. But beneath the games, he began to hear deeper notes. The mountain was not only shelter, it was teacher. One evening, Amalthea led him to a high ledge. The world stretched wide in golden light. "Zeus," she said, "the storm is yours, but so is this." He frowned, unsure. She lowered her head until their eyes met. Power without care is noise. Power with purpose is harmony. And listened, quiet for once. In his chest, the storm stirred curiously. The nymphs taught him to weave songs to calm the skies. The spirits showed him to carve paths in stone with thought. On clear nights, even the stars seemed to share secrets. But the storm did not always obey. Sometimes it roared without warning. Winds howled, lightning sparked, rain fell from empty skies. The guardians never scolded. They stood with him until silence returned. Then they whispered, "Do not fear it. Learn from it. Guide the storm. Do not let it guide you." Slowly, he understood. The storm was not outside him. It was part of him, but far away. The world stirred with unease. Mortals whispered of strange skies. Priests warned of hidden power waking. The gods grew restless. Hera watched with suspicion. Poseidon stirred the seas. Cronus felt fate pressing closer. He did not know the child's name, but he sensed danger rising. In the cave, Zeus slept soundly. He dreamed of lightning in his hands. He dreamed of winds bowing to him. But he also dreamed of valleys blooming and rivers swelling with life. The guardians knew hiding would end. The storm could not stay hidden. But they also knew this truth. When Zeus stepped beyond the mountain, he would not be a child. He would walk as one who had learned. The hidden lessons of earth, water, wind, and sky had shaped him. Destiny waited, impatient. But Zeus was learning patience too, for storms, when guided, do not only destroy, they also renew. The boy who laughed with lightning was beginning to see that truth. The first awakening had given him power. The hidden lessons gave him purpose. And soon, the two would become one. The mountain taught, and the boy listened. Each day, Zeus grew stronger, wiser, steadier. But beyond the peaks, whispers stirred in the heavens. Olympus was restless. The storm that shook the skies was no ordinary tempest. It carried intent. It carried the heartbeat of a child. Hera was the first to notice. She gazed from her balcony at clouds gathering too fast. Her voice was sharp with suspicion. Something grows in secret. Something not meant to be hidden. Poseidon felt it too. The seas rose and fell with strange rhythm. The sky stirs with a voice I do not know, he rumbled. And when the sky shifts, the seas cannot rest. But Cronus sensed the truth most deeply. Upon his throne of gold, his gaze was heavy. In the thunder's echo, he heard a name. Not spoken, not clear, but present. The name of the son fate had promised. The one destined to rise against him. Cronus clenched his jaw. Uneasy, he had swallowed his children to prevent betrayal. He thought the cycle broken, his throne secure. But the storm betrayed him. Somewhere, one child remained. He did not know the cave, the guardians, the goat with steady eyes. But he knew enough. The storm had warned him. Zeus knew nothing of Cronus's fear. His world was streams and songs, winds and laughter. Yet sometimes thunder rolled too far, too loud, and he felt eyes upon him. One night he asked Amalthea, "Why does the storm feel heavier? Why does it feel like someone listens?" Amalthea brushed her muzzle to his shoulder. "Because they do," she said softly. "The gods listen. They always listen when the sky speaks." The boy frowned. "Are they afraid?" "Yes," Amalthea replied. "And fear can be dangerous." The nymphs wove songs to veil his power. They called winds to scatter his thunder. They called rain to fall gently beyond the mountain. But the storm was growing. It could not be hidden forever. On Olympus, councils gathered in shadows. Some urged caution. Others demanded the child be found. Better to bring him forth now than wait until he becomes a rival. Hera's eyes burned with jealousy. "No child born in secret will outshine Olympus," she vowed. Poseidon's voice was steady but wary. "The sea answers him already. If he rises, the balance shifts." Cronus silenced them with a wave. "The child is mine to find," he declared. "And when I find him, his storm will end." In the cave, Zeus felt none of this. He only knew lessons of water, stone, and sky. But deep inside, the storm grew restless. It wanted more than caves and mountains. It wanted the world. Amalthea saw the hunger in his eyes, the same spark that once drove gods and titans alike. She feared it. She trusted it. She knew it could not be stopped. One twilight, she spoke to the nymphs and spirits. "The storm cannot be hidden. The gods will seek him. The boy must be ready." The nymphs sang in sorrow. The spirits rumbled in agreement. All eyes turned to the boy, tracing lightning in the sky. He smiled, unaware of fate waiting beyond the mountain. But the storm within him already knew. It whispered of thrones. It whispered of battles yet to come. And Olympus, restless and afraid, listened still. The days on Mount Ida flowed like rivers, calm and endless. But for Zeus, the stillness was no longer enough. The cave had been his cradle, the mountain his guardian. Yet his spirit grew restless, hungry for more. He climbed the ridges where the wind howled loudest. There he spread his arms, and the storm obeyed. Clouds gathered at his call. Lightning bent to his touch. Thunder rolled beneath his laughter, wild and bright. But each time the storm rose, a whisper came. More. The nymphs watched, uneasy, their songs filled with worry. Amalthea warned him, "Storms are not toys, Zeus. They are voices of power, voices that demand respect." But the boy only smiled, eyes shining. "They speak to me," he said, "and I understand them." At night, he dreamed of skies torn open. He saw thrones of gold and faces unknown. Some glared at him with fear. Others reached toward him with longing. He woke with his heart racing. One dawn, the air turned strange. The wind carried a voice across the peaks. It was not the nymphs, not Amalthea. It was the sky itself, speaking in thunder. Zeus, his name, spoken by the heavens. The sound filled him, outside and within, as if the sky and his heart shared the same breath. "Why do you call me?" he whispered. No answer in words, only shapes in the clouds. A crown, a throne, a raised hand. The nymphs felt the change and trembled. "The sky calls him by name," one said. "It begins." Amalthea bowed her head in sorrow. Fate moves. The mountain cannot hold him long. Zeus loved his cave and guardians, yet the storm inside grew louder each day. He wanted seas, lands, Olympus itself. He wanted to know the voice that spoke his name. Amalthea urged caution. "The world beyond is not gentle. Many fear you. To step beyond this mountain is to step into destiny." But Zeus could not ignore the call. He wandered farther from the cave. Rivers roared brighter at his touch. Trees swayed when he passed. Stones hummed beneath his feet. One evening, storm clouds painted the horizon. Zeus climbed higher than ever before. He raised his hands. Lightning crowned the mountain. For a moment, he knew the truth. He was not merely a child. He was something more. The thunder spoke again. "You are Stormborn. You are the sky's heir." Zeus trembled, not from fear, but from knowing the world was his to claim. That night, Amalthea saw the change in his eyes. The boy of storms had become a youth of destiny. The call of the sky had awakened him, and Olympus would soon learn his name. The mountain had been a sanctuary, but no sanctuary lasts forever. The storm within Zeus had grown too vast to hide. Even as he loved his guardians, destiny pressed closer. Every sound carried new meaning. Thunder was not noise, it was a summons. Lightning was not light, it was a sign. The world called to him, and he could not ignore it. One evening, shadows stretched long across the slopes. Amalthea approached him with sorrow in her voice. "Zeus, the time comes when you must leave this mountain." His heart leapt and sank. "Leave? But this is my home." "It was your cradle," she said, "but not your throne." The nymphs gathered, their songs soft and mournful. They had always known this day would come, but knowing did not ease the pain of parting. That night, the winds grew restless. On Olympus, Cronus sat uneasy upon his throne. He had long felt the storm he could not silence, the child he could not find. Now, the storm's heartbeat grew louder, closer. In his golden hall, Cronus summoned his loyal gods. "The storm rises," he thundered. "The child I sought still lives. I will not be undone by fate." Hera's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Poseidon's seas swelled in unease. The gods whispered among themselves in fear. On the mountain, Zeus listened to the sky. "Why do you call me?" he asked. The sky answered in thunder. "Because you are mine." Zeus understood. He was not just Amalthea's child. He belonged to the heavens themselves. His storm was not to be hidden. It was a destiny to claim. Amalthea stood beside him once more. "The world may not welcome you," she said, "but it needs you. Remember who you are." Zeus pressed his forehead to hers. His heart roared with gratitude. At dawn, he climbed the highest peak. The winds bowed to him. The clouds circled in reverence. Lightning crowned his hands. Thunder rolled like drums of war. The boy who played with storms became one with them. Far above, the gods felt the tremor. Cronus clenched his throne in fear. Hera gazed in jealousy. Poseidon closed his eyes as the sea echoed the storm. Mortals below looked to the skies. They whispered prayers, feeling a presence they could not name. The world was shifting. The storm had outgrown the mountain. Zeus was ready to walk into destiny. But destiny is never gentle. The storm would gather, the storm would break, and from its heart, the sky's air would rise.